Welcome to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. I'm Bernie Flowers, one of Uncle Sam's wayward sons. I intend to talk about important topics every week in hopes of helping to improve our country and our way of life. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe as we try to grow the channel and defend America's middle class. So, let's get started. Today, I'm joined by Brigadier General Chris Walker of the West Virginia National Guard.
Retired.
Retired. General, how you doing today?
Loving life. Out here in West Virginia, we have some light snow on the ground. It's enough to make the trees look pretty, but it's also enough to make it annoying to drive.
Woo! You're one of those Harley drivers, aren't you?
I am. I have a Fat Boy, a 2012 Fat Boy that I've modded up, stage one, and I also have a 2007 Night Rod that I've really modded out, carbon fiber and upgraded exhaust and everything else. So, but today's not a day to have those out.
No, I can't see that. I can't see that at all. But it sure is a nice toy to play with.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Well, I want to welcome you to the podcast. And, professionally, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I grew up in New York City, and why do you live in West Virginia? Because I love it. But nevertheless, grew up in New York City, and I lived about 2 miles from JFK International Airport. And I could see the planes taking off and landing 24 hours a day. And that fascinated me. Matter of fact, their approach path was so close. Sometimes on the phone, we'd have to stop, wait till the plane flies over, and then resume our conversation. Now, that being said, I must have been 5, 6 years old and had a flight down to Jamaica, West Indies, to see my grandparents and aunts and uncles. And back then, they used to open the door and let the kids come into the cockpit. And the captain put his hat on my head. They gave me some plastic wings. And I said, oh my God, this is what I'm going to do. And so that's what I was obsessed with the rest of my life, and also being an astronaut. My father wanted me to be a doctor, and but my will prevailed. And I happened to see senior year of high school, which is late to even think about any of the academies. But at the beginning of the senior year of high school, we had a career day, and a young second lieutenant who had just graduated from the Air Force Academy. I don't know if they called them gold bar recruiters back then, but that's essentially what he was. And I told him, hey, I'm talking to a recruiter because I want to fly in the Air Force. And he said, hold on a second. Don't you want to be an officer? And I said, no, man, why would I want to be a cop? I want to fly. He goes, no. Do you know the difference between officer and enlisted? And I was dumbfounded. He sat me down and he told me about the Air Force Academy, ROTC, and Officer Training School. He said, if you really want to fly, go to the Air Force Academy because they take all the flight slots and leave the crumbs for ROTC and OTS. I said, thank you. And so from then on, it was Air Force Academy or bust. I did not apply to any other college. Again, that was late for me to be doing that because you should be starting junior year for any of the service academies. I didn't get in the first year, but they gave me a slot in the Air Force Academy prep school, and I got in the second year. But I said, I'm either going to Air Force Academy or nowhere. I was dead set. That being said, I had a great career flying around the world as a C-130 navigator. I guess I'm sort of the adrenaline guy because there were times my commanders wanted me to take a break and teach at the schoolhouse. I said, no, I want to be deployed. I want the action. And they said, it'll hurt your career. You'll never get promoted. And I said, let me worry about that. Well, lo and behold, look what happened. I retired as a brigadier general. My last active duty assignment was Yokota Air Base, Japan, near Tokyo. Mm-hmm. And that is when my commander said, hey, you're not going to have any choice this time. We're sending you to the schoolhouse. I said, oh, yeah? And I made some calls. And thank God, the West Virginia Air National Guard, the 167th Airlift Wing in Martinsburg, West Virginia, welcomed me with open arms. And in the Guard, I was deployed at war way more than I was active duty. But that's the kind of thing I love. I thrive on the adrenaline. And and now in retirement, I wake up sometimes going, okay, what to do today? That's why I'm driving motorcycles, and that's why I drive souped up cars because I need the adrenaline.
Well, you also ran for public office not long ago, if I'm not mistaken. Can you talk
Oh
a little
yes,
bit about that?
oh yes. So one mistake with that is, but I don't call it a mistake. It's a learning experience. But I wasn't able to even declare until after retirement. I retired October 1st, 2023, and then I still had to think about it and get myself together on it. And in December of 2023 is when I said, okay, let's start putting a team together. And then I declared in January. So essentially 4 months before the primary. That did not give me a lot of time to butt up against my main competitor, Riley Moore, who's his family is like they're the Kennedys of West Virginia, and so his aunt is Shelley Moore Capito. Okay, his grandfather was governor. His cousin was running for governor at the same time, and so it's just a family of politicians, and so that was a lot to go against, especially since he had been in the primary for about 15 months, and he'd gotten all the endorsements he needed and whatnot. I was able to pick up some endorsements from Jack Bergman, Don Bacon, Burgess Owens, and so and I was able to raise a lot of money, but it wasn't enough to take me over the finish line. So we'll see what happens next time.
Well, you're still a young man. You got time.
Thank you so kindly.
Well, hey, I want to talk to you about the Ukraine and some of the things that are going on. I got some questions to ask you if you don't mind.
Okay. I'm all yours.
Well, the New York Times recently reported that Biden and his administration are sending forth long-range precision weapons against deep targets in Russia, or to be used against deep targets in Russia. And, that would put us at the risk of a nuclear conflagration. And the bottom line is that it's the nuclear Cuban Missile Crisis all over again. And I personally don't like it as an old Cold Warrior, just like yourself. What do you think about that?
Okay, so to be more precise, we have been giving the Ukrainians the ATACMS for a while. It's just that we gave them with the conditions, the constraints of not firing them over the border into Russia. And so what the Biden administration recently did was just take away those conditions, take away those constraints, and because the ATACMS does have the range to get into Russia. Now, that being said, that of course ticked off Putin because as we were discussing before the podcast, imagine if Russia gave the cartels in Mexico the ability to do that to us. We would not appreciate that.
No, we wouldn't.
That being said, Putin is playing chess now, and he's a good chess player. So a lot of people, just because you don't like him, doesn't mean he's stupid. So he's rattling the nuclear sword in the nuclear saber. He's rattling it. But before we get into that, let me put some other points up there. Even before using the ATACMS to get into Russia, the Ukrainians have been innovative enough to develop drones that could go that far as well, and they've been doing a lot of destruction deep in Russia. So here's one of the things where we could have said, just keep doing what you're doing because the war is slogging out. But now giving them the permission to do deep strikes with our weapons, that raises it up a bit and a lot, because the ATACMS are devastating. That being said, I'm afraid of two things. One, I've already seen how badly Russia's forces have performed over the last few years. They were supposed to be so mighty, and they turned out to be a paper tiger. That is because of corruption Their logistics officers weren't taking care of their equipment. They were using the money to probably buy dashas by the Black Sea, and the way they treat their service members is atrocious. They're just putting them through the meat grinder. Right now they're trying to recruit prisoners. They're putting prisoners out there on the front lines. North Korea is sending thousands of soldiers who are being turned into hamburger as well. That being said, I'm not that scared of Russia, but that means if we got into a conflict with them, they would have to go the nuclear option early because there's no way they could compete with us.
I agree with you 150%.
Yeah, so that makes it scary. And then the second thing is, because I've seen how ineffective their military is, I don't have confidence in their nuclear command and control, because that is supposed to keep things from going to the brink. Luckily, now when they launched that nuclear capable missile into Ukraine, they did give the proper nuclear command and control warnings to the United States so that we wouldn't open the silos. But I can't rely on that all the time, okay? Because I don't trust the professionalism of their military. They've shown me otherwise.
You know, it's funny you say that. I mean, from my perspective, we're, pretty much around the same age. And, I did 20, you did at least 30. So the issue of the day is that we came up in the same background and we were, Cold Warriors. We fully expected to have a big fight in the Fulda Gap and all of us die. I know it sounds kind of morbid, but that's what we were trained to do and we were expecting to win. But the issue of the day is that Ukraine what are they strategically worth to us? I mean, what are we fighting for? When I left Europe, we had pretty much made an agreement with the Russians that Ukraine was supposed to be a buffer zone. And I'm getting emotional about this because this was my life for a very, very long time, and even as a civilian, I retired from my civilian job in 2022, and I was back and forth to Northcom out in Colorado Springs often. But the issue of the day is that Joe Biden is in his lame duck session. He's got 6 weeks to go. Why is he trying to start something with the Russian government?
My theory is because he's trying to set up a no-win situation for President Trump. He's trying to so that he can watch and try to watch and laugh with popcorn as Trump tries to unscrew the situation. The thing is, he and all the rest of them vastly underestimate Donald Trump. He's a wheeler and a dealer, and none of them have any idea of how to do that. We see how feckless they have been. They're trying to set up Donald Trump, but I don't think it's going to have the effect they think it's going to have.
Wow. Well, imagine, back to something you said earlier, if Russia were providing, let's say, the cartels missiles and training and targeting information for a deep strike into America. I mean, we wouldn't tolerate it. What do you think how do they feel? And why is it that we expect Russia to put up with all this? And even from the Ukrainians' perspective, I mean, last I checked, the average day-to-day Ukrainian wants the war to stop and they want a negotiated peace. So what are your thoughts about that?
I think Putin is sane, but he's barely there. We have no idea what it's going to take to make him snap and go off the other side. And so we should not be playing around with this. A lot of people want to say, all right, it's time we defeat Russia once and for all. And I go, that's a little bit more complicated than you think. I think you've been watching too many. My opinion is constrain Russia, let them do whatever they want to do, but as long as they're not coming into NATO, okay. But for us to try and put on the white cowboy hats and say, all right, we're going to defend Ukraine. I don't know if it's worth our national treasure and our people's lives to do that. I would love Ukraine to win, but we have problems of our own, and quite honestly, balancing out the good of the American people and the good of the Ukrainians, I got to say, lots of luck, Ukrainians. Y'all are crafty. You have been doing well so far. So keep doing what you're doing. We'll help out humanitarian wise, but I don't think we should keep poking the bear because I don't think the loss of American lives would be worth it.
You know, as a former military person, as a soldier that's deployed, I have the same perspective. And it's fine. It seems to me odd that the people who want to push this are the neocons, the people who haven't been in the military, who don't have any vested interest. They're not going to
No
they don't have
skin
any
in the
skin in the
game.
game. No skin in the game. Hey, I want to switch this a little bit and talk about Miss Harris and the recent, her big loss. Last I heard, she spent over $1 billion in her loss, and she's now $20 million in the hole, or at least her campaign is. I mean, they had Oprah and Beyonce and all these famous people that basically were paid to say nice things about her. And so I find it hilarious. But the issue of the day is that where does she get all this money from so quickly?
Allow me to say, she got it from suckers. The left is on in such a bubble they could not imagine her losing, and they thought this was money well spent, and they weren't really doing critical thinking, and thus they gave away a lot of money, and it went down the drain. And I laugh at them. I'm glad they lost all that money because maybe it'll help them supposedly smart people who made all that money to be actually smart and think about things for next time. And but yeah, they were suckers, and they thought that they could fool. These are all people on the left, and I'm sorry to say, mostly white progressives, because when it came down to the border, black people and Hispanic people were statistically more angry about the border than white progressives. Okay, so that shows you what's going on. But they thought that they could control black people with giving us a little, booty shaking and some promises of Beyonce and getting some celebrities to crow for Harris. They think black people are stupid. And we saw through it, as you see the shift that went to Trump with black people and Hispanics. Okay, so all of those suckers, they lost their money, and I laugh at them.
A fool and his money are soon parted, as they
That's
say.
right.
I had a great time watching it. And the weird thing to me is the polls up until the very day before the election, they were presenting Harris as a credible threat, as if she was going to win. And they were so hurt. I mean, MSNBC with Joe Scarborough, I got up that morning after the election, and it was like he looked like somebody had stolen his dog or something. It was terrible.
Oh my God! So look. The week before the election, I spent in New York City with my mom, taking care of my mom. But she lives in the same house I grew up in Jamaica, Queens. And each day there, taking care of her, if I go to the grocery store or to the Jamaican bakery restaurant to get patties and things like that, I would be wearing shirts that say Ultra MAGA or what's another good one I have? Keep women sports female, or there are only two genders, X, 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 Y. I would wear those out just to see what people were going to say in that neighborhood, and I got zero side eye, and I got a lot of yeah, I'm with you. I said, and that is surprising because this is a black neighborhood. And so I said, I know who's winning this election. I don't care what all of these pollsters say, because 2 years ago, if I'd been wearing those shirts around, I would have gotten people coming up to me trying to chest bump.
Yeah.
Got none of that.
Well, the thing is that if you go back to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, they warned us about this. And this whole identity politics thing is nothing but divisive. And they've used the black vote to carry out agendas that are not good for black people and not good for minorities in general. And now that we have a player in office that is working for all the people, not just some of the people, maybe we can make some positive changes if we don't blow our civilization up first.
I have some cousins who I talked to who about a year ago, hated Trump. And I said, I remember when we were growing up, all of us clamoring to be on the TV to watch Trump and wanted to be like Trump. What changed all of a sudden to make you think he's such a racist? Well, and they hem and haw. I said,
yeah,
you got brainwashed by the hive because you came up loving him, and you just because he went GOP, you decided to believe everything they say. And,
there you go.
And they had no answer. But yeah, these are typical Thanksgivings and Christmases when I go to New York. Yeah. So I know already that West Virginia is a very, very red state. But I think I've always thought that we should have a bigger movement to ensure that all of the folks we send up to Washington are veterans. Because veterans have skin in the game, especially with some of these issues that are going on now. And so joining as an ambassador to the organization, I said, all right, here's my chance. And then there's another thing that I want to do as well is to increase awareness with veterans to help mentor the youngsters and inspire them. Because we have lots of veterans who are my friends who are saying they don't want their kids to join the military now because of all the wokeism. And I say, whoa, hold on a second. How about this? How about encouraging them to join and encouraging them to fight the wokeism?
Yeah.
Because if we allow, if all of our vets say our kids aren't joining, and the only people who join are the ones who are attracted by the rainbow parades, we're going to get our butts kicked. So, I said it. So
it's the truth.
I'm telling you, we have to encourage our butt kickers, and we have to inspire them at a young age to want to be butt kickers. Now, some parents are going to be appalled and say, "Oh, you want to militarize my kids?" Be appalled as you want. This is the way our country stays strong.
The country doesn't function unless there's people that are willing to defend it. Bottom line. Right. And I'm about to say something that is not politically correct, but I'm not politically correct. If you ain't in the business of killing people and breaking things, you shouldn't be in the military.
That's right.
Period.
Go sit down somewhere.
There you go.
We got a job for you in the Department of State.
There you go. General, I have just enjoyed this conversation. I have taken up enough of your time because I know you got other things to do. I want to give you an opportunity to speak to the people and say whatever is on your mind.
All right. So I want everyone watching to ensure that if you have children in school, pay attention to what those teachers are telling them. We've seen an upswell in that, but stay strong on it, because if we have teachers out there who are teaching our kids to hate our country, then we are going to be lost, because they're not going to want to fight for our freedoms. They're just going to expect it to just be given to us, and we will end up speaking Mandarin with a gun to our head.
Wow, that's profound, and it's the truth. Well, General, thank you for coming on the program. Thank you for joining Veterans for America First. I'm so proud to be working arm in arm with you on that. And we got a lot of stuff we got to get done. And I want to see you in the Senate running, representing West Virginia, and sometime in the very, very near future. And one more thing. If people need to get a hold of you, how can they do so?
Okay. So I have two different Twitter accounts, but the one that I control is at Mwagi, MWUAGI. And then I tell you what, this is dangerous, but I'm going to give out an email address. And so that same MWUAGI at hotmail.com.
I like it. I like it. Well, General, I thank you for coming on to the Loyal Opposition podcast. I hope to have you on as a guest routinely and frequently. I
Oh,
thank you and enjoy your snowy day in West Virginia.
thank you so kindly. Farewell.
Well, that's about it for now. This has been the Loyal Opposition Podcast, produced in association with Fallback Productions and Veterans for America First. Please like, share, and subscribe as we try to grow the channel and protect America's middle class. Be sure to get your copy of my book, Black Values Matter, available as an ebook on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. And also, remember, it's okay to disagree. But if we want our country to prosper, we must insist on unity, transparency, and civility for ourselves and for our fellow citizens. Thanks for listening to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. We'll see you next week.